Today, we're going to talk about a difficult but incredibly important topic. Why do some grown children insult their parents, and how can parents protect themselves from this pain? This is a harsh reality that many parents face. After years of dedicating their lives to nurturing and protecting their children, some mothers and fathers find themselves confronted with coldness, disrespect, and often outright offensive treatment. I received a letter that deeply moved me. Miss Linda from Chicago wrote, pleading for help and advice. Her story is heartbreaking, but I know many of you will relate to her. Miss Linda shared, "My son, Alex, 32 years old, when he's in a bad mood, yells in my face, blames me for everything, and uses words so cruel that my heart aches. But then he calls, crying, apologizing, promising to change, and I always forgive him. But the next day, it starts all over again. I don't know what to do anymore. How do I protect myself from this painful cycle?" Dear mothers, this story is not unique. I know many of you have experienced the same thing. The children you once loved, the children you held in your arms, now turn their backs on you just when they need you most. But why does this happen? Where did we go wrong? Did we spoil them too much? Did we give everything without asking for anything in return? Your child yells in your face, insults you without clear reason. In the past, in America, a child would never dare raise their voice to their mother or father. It was an unshakable principle taught from early childhood. Families had clear structures, values were passed down from generation to generation, and the image of the mother was considered sacred. However, times have changed. Today, many grown children feel entitled to yell at their parents, vent their anger and frustrations on them, treat them with contempt, as if parents are responsible for every problem in their lives. If this is happening to you, know that you are not alone. Thousands of mothers have gone through similar situations, wondering, where did I go wrong? But the truth is, often, it's not that you did something wrong. The modern world, the culture of seeking instant gratification, and the lack of lessons about respect have caused many children to lose their sense of boundaries. I'll tell you the story of Miss Victoria from Boston. She's 68 years old and dedicated her entire life to caring for her son, Andrew. She raised him alone, always ensuring he had the best of everything, from prestigious schools to educational trips. She worked twice as hard so he could pursue his passions without financial worries. From a young age, Andrew was stubborn, but Miss Victoria always gave in, thinking he would mature over time and learn to appreciate her sacrifices. But the reality was different. He grew distant, only reaching out when he needed advice or support, and their conversations often ended with him being irritable. Now, Andrew rarely visits his mother. When he calls, he only complains about his life. If Miss Victoria tries to offer advice, he snaps at her. But on one particular day, things went too far. That winter, Miss Victoria fell ill with a high fever and called her son, asking him to pick up medicine from the pharmacy. Andrew responded rudely, "You always call me at the worst times. Why don't you ask someone else? I'm not your servant." Miss Victoria was shocked. She never imagined she'd hear such words from her own son. Gathering all her strength, she told him she didn't need his help anymore and hung up. But inside, a deep pain erupted. A few hours later, Andrew called back, apologizing, saying he was stressed from work. Miss Victoria forgave him, but a month later the cycle repeated. He yelled again, apologized again, and the vicious cycle never stopped. Until one day, Miss Victoria realized a harsh truth. If she didn't set boundaries, her son would never change. What should you do when your son yells at you and insults you? If your son raises his voice at you, don't tolerate it. If he's done it once and you forgave him without setting boundaries, it's highly likely he'll do it again, and each time it will be worse. The next time it happens, say firmly, "I am your mother. You may not agree with me, but you are never allowed to disrespect me." And more importantly, stand your ground. If he continues, end the conversation immediately. Don't try to argue to stay calm. Don't try to convince him that you deserve respect. Just hang up the phone or leave the room. If necessary, avoid taking his calls for a while. Don't be afraid to temporarily keep your distance. Many children only realize their mother's value when they feel her absence. But what if he apologizes afterward? Many children lash out, say cruel words, then call back, remorseful, promising not to do it again, saying they were stressed and sorry. But an apology without behavioral change is meaningless. If your son always apologizes but days later yells and insults again, he's not truly remorseful. He's just comfortable knowing you'll always forgive him. So say, "I accept your apology, but that doesn't mean I'll forget. If this happens again, I will take measures." And if necessary, actually keep your distance. Your son needs to understand that you are not an outlet for him to vent his frustrations whenever he's in a bad mood. But he's my son. I don't want to be distant. I know this is very hard. No mother wants to be distant from her son. But what's more painful? Temporarily keeping your distance to show him you deserve respect, or continuing to endure insults and humiliation in your own home. The choice is yours. I know many of you grew up believing that a mother must endure everything, but that's not true. A mother's love is boundless, but it should not be confused with submission. You deserve respect. You deserve peace. If your son doesn't understand that, he might only understand when you stop tolerating that treatment. In America, many mothers have sacrificed their entire lives to raise their children, putting their children's needs above all else, giving up dreams, rest, and even their own health. They worked tirelessly, went through sleepless nights, saved every penny so their children could have everything. But instead of love and gratitude, they receive coldness and selfishness. Many women realize too late that, to their children, they are only a source of money. If your son only shows up when he needs financial support, think about this painful but necessary question. Does he love you, or does he only need your money? If the answer isn't clear, it's time to change this dynamic. I'll tell you the story of Miss Nancy from San Francisco. She's 70 years old and worked her entire life to raise her son, Oliver, now 38. Miss www.com. Nancy always did everything for him, from working overtime to pay for his prestigious college education to supporting his first business venture. She never let him lack anything, even helping him buy his first home by mortgaging her own property. But over time, Oliver only reached out when he faced financial difficulties, from car repairs to new project investments. Miss Nancy initially thought this was her role, but one day she tried calling just to talk about everyday life. Oliver responded hastily, cutting her off and promising to call back, but never did. She realized he only saw her as an emergency support source, not as a mother who needed genuine care. How do you protect yourself from a selfish son? If your son only shows up when he needs money, it's time to learn to say number. At first, this is very difficult, but if you keep giving in, he will never learn to be independent. The next time he asks for money, say firmly, "Son, I love you, but now I need to take care of myself." Don't justify your decision. Don't feel guilty. Don't try to compensate with other forms of help. If he insists, stand your ground. An important tip: if you're afraid he'll get angry or try to manipulate you, use the gentle no strategy. Calmly say, "No, please don't insist." Then change the subject or end the conversation. The more you explain, the more he'll try to convince you to change your decision. But what if he really needs help? If I don't help, he'll struggle. This is the trap many mothers fall into. They believe that if they don't help, their children will suffer. But think about it. How many times have you helped him? Has he truly learned anything from it? If every time he faces a financial problem, you solve it for him, he will never learn to cope on his own. If he knows he can always rely on your money, he will never find his own solutions. So, ask yourself, do you want to raise an adult or someone who remains forever dependent? If the answer is an adult, you need to let him learn to face the consequences of his choices. But if I refuse money, he'll hate me. Maybe at first, yes. He might get angry, complain, even try to manipulate you with phrases like, "I'm your son, you have to help me. If you love me, you'll do this for me. Don't blame me if I don't visit you anymore." If this happens, remember, a son who only comes to you for money isn't showing real love. Real love is based on respect, not financial dependence. Moreover, if he truly distances himself from you just because you said no, then his love was never real. Don't worry over time. He'll realize he can't manipulate you anymore and will find ways to solve his problems. After realizing her son only came to her for money, Miss Nancy stopped giving in. Oliver asked for money again, and she said, "Son, I love you, but I need to take care of myself." He insisted, but she stood her ground. The first month, Oliver distanced himself, didn't call, didn't visit. It was painful. Miss Nancy felt like she'd lost her son. But then something miraculous happened. Over time, Oliver realized he couldn't rely on his mother anymore and started handling things himself, from taking on extra work to managing his finances better. A year later, he called me Nancy, but this time not to ask for money, but to check on her and share his personal achievements. That day, Miss Nancy realized that for the first time, her son began to see her as a mother, not a bank. He never has time for you. Do you remember when your son was young and you were always there, caring for him, feeding him, protecting him? You were there every night when he had a fever, every time he fell, every moment he lacked confidence. You dropped everything to listen to his problems, cook his favorite meals, do everything so he wouldn't feel alone. Now, he's grown, but he never has time to visit or even call. He always has time for friends, work, life's obligations, but when it comes to you, he's always busy. If you try to arrange a meeting, he responds hastily, "Mom, I'm really busy this week. Let's talk later." But that later never comes, and months pass by. If you feel your son doesn't make time for you, don't beg for attention. Calmly and confidently say, "If you can't visit me, that's fine. But one day, when you feel you miss me, it might be too late." This is the story of Miss Olivia from New York. She's 72 years old and has an only son, Victor, 40 years old. When Victor was young, Miss Olivia gave everything to him, from working night shifts to pay for private school to supporting his extracurricular activities to develop his skills. She sacrificed to see him grow, always ready to listen to his every concern. However, over time, things changed. When Victor got a good job and started a family, his visits became rare. At first, he still called occasionally, but over the years, the calls grew shorter. Now, when Miss Olivia calls, he responds hastily, always busy. "Mom, I'm at work. I'll call you back later." "Mom, I'm really busy. Can't talk now." "Mom, we're on vacation. Let's talk when we're back." But that, when we're back, never happens. Holidays pass, birthdays are forgotten, loneliness piles up, and memories of the old days become a past he no longer has time to remember. The worst came on Miss Olivia's 72nd birthday. She waited all day for a call that never came. Victor forgot, and that's when Miss Olivia realized the painful truth. She was always there for her son, but he was never there for her. So, she made a decision. If your son never has time for you, don't beg for attention. Many mothers make the mistake of insisting, pleading, trying everything to be present in their child's life. But this only makes things worse. If you always forgive and excuse his absence, he'll never realize he's hurting you. So, the best approach is to change your approach. Stop calling and texting constantly. If you're always the one reaching out first, he'll never feel your absence. Say firmly but without anger, "If you can't visit me, that's fine. But one day, when you feel you miss me, it might be too late." Start focusing on yourself more. Many mothers dedicate so much time to their children that when their children grow up and grow distant, they feel empty. Fill that void with your own life. Go for walks, make new friends, join social activities, live for yourself. When your son realizes you're no longer waiting for him, he'll start to feel your absence. But what if he realizes too late? This is the biggest fear for many mothers. What if he only realizes he needs me when it's too late? The truth is, that could happen. Many children only realize their mother's value when she's no longer there. But think with me, what can you do? You can't force your son to love you. Begging for attention only causes you more pain. Waiting for change year after year might never happen. So, your only choice is to stop begging for attention and live your life with dignity. If your son realizes in time, wonderful, but if he doesn't, that's his fault, not yours. Realizing Victor wasn't making time for her, Miss Olivia stopped reaching out. She didn't call, didn't text, didn't insist anymore. At first, Victor didn't even notice, but a few months later, something changed. One day, he called on his own. "Mom, are you okay?" "It's been a while since we talked," she calmly replied. "I'm fine, son. I've been busy going out, making new friends." And in that moment, Victor realized that his mother, who was always there, now had her own life, with outings and new hobbies. Eventually, he started visiting her more often, not because she begged or pressured him, but because he felt her absence and wanted to rebuild a genuine connection. Your son criticizes everything you do. You realize that nothing you do is right in his eyes. If you clean the house, he complains. If you cook, he says the food is bad. If you offer advice, he gets angry and says you're exaggerating. It's as if, in his eyes, you can never do anything right. But why does this happen? Because he's grown accustomed to seeing you as less than him. This behavior doesn't come out of nowhere. It develops gradually over years until it becomes normal for him. If you feel your son constantly criticizes you, don't tolerate it. The next time he starts criticizing, look him in the eyes and say firmly, "I've lived many years and have life experience. You may not agree with me, but you are not allowed to disrespect me." If he insists, leave the room. This is the story of Miss Sophia from Los Angeles. She's 69 years old and has a son, Ryan, 42 years old. From the time Ryan was young, Miss Sophia did everything for him, from laundry to arranging extracurricular schedules to help him develop fully. She thought this care would make him grateful, but over time, Ryan took it for granted. When she cooked his favorite dish, he complained about the taste. If she offered advice about his job, he said she was outdated. The criticism grew, making her feel like all her efforts were in vain. The breaking point came when she visited Ryan and his young family in the city. She arrived early and started cleaning the kitchen to help, but Ryan got angry. "Mom, you don't need to touch anything. You never do it right." Miss Sophia was shocked. She only wanted to show love through her actions. During dinner, she prepared a family meal with all her heart, but Ryan grimaced and said, "Mom, this isn't trendy anymore. You should try a more modern recipe." That was when she decided she had to change to regain respect. How do you deal with a child who constantly criticizes you? If your son is always criticizing, you have two choices: accept it and endure in silence, or set boundaries and demand respect. If you choose the latter, follow these steps. Stop justifying yourself. If he starts complaining about what you do, don't try to convince him you're right. Say firmly, "I've lived many years and have life experience. You may not agree with me, but you are not allowed to disrespect me." If he insists, end the conversation. Don't argue, don't try to prove anything, just leave the room or hang up the phone. When he realizes you're no longer willing to hear criticism all the time, he'll start to change. But what if he keeps criticizing? That means he doesn't respect the boundaries you've set. In that case, take more decisive action. Reduce contact for a while. Don't always be available to him. Show him your life doesn't revolve around his opinions. A tip: if he realizes you don't need his approval to be happy, he'll start respecting you more. "But I'm his mother. I have to listen to him, right?" Yes, but there's a difference between a son offering advice and a son constantly criticizing. A son who truly loves you will offer advice with respect, care, and treat you with kindness. A son who doesn't respect you will constantly correct you, make you feel inferior, and act as if he knows more than you. If your son treats you as if you're less important, he needs to learn to respect you, and that starts with you setting boundaries. After realizing Ryan was constantly criticizing her, Miss Sophia decided she wouldn't tolerate it anymore. The next day at dinner, Ryan started again. "Mom, you never understand anything about technology. You should stop trying." But this time, Miss Sophia didn't stay silent. She looked her son in the eyes and said, "I've lived many years and have life experience. You may not agree with me, but you are not allowed to disrespect me." Then she stood up and left the table. Ryan was shocked. The mother, who always stayed quiet, was now standing firm. In the months that followed, Miss Sophia changed. She stopped trying to please her son, focused on herself, found new hobbies like joining an art class, and spent time with friends. Surprisingly, Ryan started treating her with more respect, even proactively asking for her advice on some family matters. He realized he could no longer treat her as he did before, because she no longer accepted being treated carelessly. Your son makes you feel afraid in your own home. American mothers are known for their strength and resilience. They carry the world on their shoulders, face hardships, but some find themselves in the situation of fearing their own child in their own home. Afraid of the yelling, afraid of the aggression, afraid that one day their child might cross a line. The child who was once a helpless baby, holding your hand to take their first steps, now treats you with aggression, making you feel unsafe in your own home. This must stop immediately. You don't need to live in fear, and you don't need to endure it alone. If your son acts aggressively, keep your distance from him. Seek support from family, friends, or even authorities if necessary. And above all, remember, no one has the right to harm you, not even your own son. This is the story of Miss Emily from Seattle. Miss Emily is 63 years old and has a son, Ian, 45 years old. From a young age, Ian was impulsive, but Miss Emily always believed he would change over time, especially once he started a stable career. The problem began subtly. At first, Ian spoke to his mother rudely. Then, he started yelling whenever things didn't go his way, from arguments about family plans to minor disagreements. Over the years, the aggression escalated. If Miss Emily asked something he didn't want to answer, he slammed his hand on the table. If she disagreed with him, he approached her with an angry look, as if he could do anything. Miss Emily began to feel afraid in her own home. One night, during an argument about financial support, Ian clenched his fist and yelled so loudly that she felt her heart tremble. She started sleeping with her door locked, feeling that her son had become a frightening stranger. Then one day, while talking to a close friend, she heard a sentence that changed everything. "If a stranger treated you like that, would you accept it?" The answer was clear. So why did she have to endure it from her own son? What should you do if your son threatens or makes you feel afraid? If your son becomes aggressive, the first thing you need to understand is that it's not normal. Many mothers justify their son's behavior. He's going through a tough time. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't mean to hurt me. He just explodes easily. But the truth is, those justifications don't make a son's harmful behavior acceptable. If this is happening to you, follow these steps. Don't react with fear. If your son yells, approaches aggressively, or tries to intimidate you, don't show fear. Look him in the eyes and say firmly, "I won't accept being treated like this. If this continues, I will take measures." Then leave the room. If you feel the situation is becoming dangerous, don't try to argue, just leave. Seek support. If you have trusted family, friends, or neighbors, ask for help. If necessary, report to the authorities. This is the hardest decision, but if you're in danger, you need to protect yourself. Remember, even if he's your son, he has no right to harm or cause you pain. But he's my son. I can't abandon him. Many mothers resist the idea of distancing themselves from an aggressive son because they feel guilty. After all, you raised him, cared for him, sacrificed for him. But think, if you keep your distance, he might realize what he's doing and change. But if you keep enduring, he'll never have a reason to change. And more importantly, keeping your distance doesn't mean you stop loving him. It means you also love yourself. What if he apologizes afterward? This happens quite often. After a fit of rage, many sons apologize, saying they didn't mean it. They were stressed. It wasn't their intention. But if it happens repeatedly, understand that he's not truly remorseful. He only knows he can act that way because you always forgive him. So, If he apologizes, say, "I accept your apology, but that doesn't mean I'll forget. If this happens again, I will take measures." This will teach him that there are boundaries you won't allow to be crossed. After realizing she could no longer live in fear, Miss Emily gathered the courage to confront Ian. The next time he yelled in her face, she didn't bow her head. She looked her son in the eyes and said, "I am your mother, but I am not your victim. If you can't treat me with respect, don't come to me anymore." For the first time, Ian fell silent. In the days that followed, Miss Emily reduced contact. She didn't respond to messages immediately, wasn't always available for him, and started joining a community support group to regain her confidence. And then something miraculous happened. A few weeks later, Ian called, not to ask for money, not to yell, but to check on his mother and admit his mistakes. That day, Miss Emily realized that for the first time, her son began to show respect, and their relationship gradually healed through sincere conversations. Your son uses you as a servant. Every mother wants her son to grow up independent, capable of taking care of himself, cooking, and organizing his life without needing help. But unfortunately, this doesn't always happen. Many mothers realize too late that their grown children never learn to be independent. Worse, they treat their mother like a servant. They expect you to cook every meal, leave dirty clothes for you to wash, complain if the house isn't clean as they want, and never thank or acknowledge your efforts. If your son behaves this way, it's not love, it's exploitation. And if you allow it, it will never change. This is the story of Miss Taylor from Miami. She's 68 years old and has a son, Michael, 39 years old. Michael has always lived with his mother. When he was young, Miss Taylor saw caring for him as her role, from washing his clothes to preparing nutritious meals so he could focus on school and hobbies. She thought this support would make him confident and grateful. But as the years passed, Michael didn't become independent. Now, as an adult, he continues to expect his mother to do everything for him. If she doesn't cook, he doesn't eat. If she doesn't wash his clothes, he has nothing clean to wear. If she doesn't clean the house, he complains about the mess but does nothing to help. Worse, he never says thank you. To him, it's his mother's duty to take care of everything. Miss Taylor realized something was wrong when she fell ill for a few days. She thought Michael would help, but instead, he complained because there was no food ready. "Mom, what am I supposed to eat today? You're not doing anything." In that moment, Miss Taylor realized the painful truth. She had raised a son who didn't appreciate her efforts. Moreover, she realized he wouldn't change on his own, and she needed to encourage him to learn independence for both their sakes. How do you stop being a victim? If your grown son expects you to do everything for him, it's time to change that now. Here's what you need to do. Stop doing everything for him. If he leaves dirty clothes, leave them there. If he doesn't wash dishes, leave them in the sink. If he doesn't cook, let him go hungry. If he complains, say firmly, "You're an adult, learn to take care of yourself." Don't give in. He might complain, make a fuss, even try to guilt, trip you, but don't fall into that trap. When he realizes you're no longer doing everything for him, he'll be forced to change. But what if he doesn't like it? That's very likely. If he's used to being served without effort, of course, he won't like the change. He might say, "You always took care of me. Why do you want to change now? You're my mother. It's your duty. Don't complain if I don't help you when you need it." If this happens, stand your ground. If he truly loves you, he'll realize he needs to change. But if he insists that you must serve him, then he never saw you as a mother, only as someone who does everything for him. In that case, the best thing you can do is keep your distance. But I've always taken care of him. How can I just stop now? This is the hardest part for many mothers. They've spent their lives caring for their son, and stopping feels wrong. But think, if you keep doing everything for him, he'll never learn to be independent. If you stop now, he might finally grow up and become self-sufficient. You're not abandoning him. You're teaching him a lesson he should have learned long ago, to appreciate what you've done. After realizing Michael was treating her like a servant, Miss Taylor made a decision. She stopped cooking for him, stopped washing his clothes, stopped cleaning his room. The first few days, Michael got angry, complained, yelled, tried to manipulate her. But Miss Taylor stood her ground. And then, something miraculous happened. A few weeks later, Michael realized that if he didn't cook, he wouldn't have anything to eat. If he didn't wash his clothes, he wouldn't have anything clean to wear. If he didn't clean his room, he'd live in a mess. For the first time in his life, he started doing things himself. At first, he did them with resentment. But over time, he realized how much his mother had done for him and began sharing household chores as a way to show gratitude. And one day he said, "Thank you, Mom." Just a simple "thank you, Mom." But to Miss Taylor, it was proof that her son had finally learned, and their relationship became more balanced. Your son humiliates you in front of others. Nothing is more painful than disrespect from your own child. But the pain is even greater when your child does it in front of others, in front of grandchildren, relatives, or friends. When your child publicly treats you with contempt or mocks you as if you don't deserve respect, it's a clear sign that they've completely lost respect for you. Worse, if they do this in front of your grandchildren, they're teaching the next generation not to value you. If this happens, don't bow your head. Look your child in the eyes and say firmly, "You may be my son, but I am your mother, and I demand respect." When you stand up, your child will understand they can't treat you carelessly. This is the story of Miss Natalie from Dallas. She's 74 years old and has 2 sons, Arthur and Samuel. Her entire life, Miss Natalie devoted herself to her family, raising her children with love, always putting their needs above her own, from supporting their college education to helping with their children. She thought her sacrifices would create a lasting bond. But as her sons grew up, they began treating her with less respect. This became clear during a family dinner. Miss Natalie spent the entire morning preparing a large meal for her sons and grandchildren with traditional dishes everyone once loved. As everyone sat at the table, she beamed, happy to have the family together. But then something broke her heart. Arthur, her eldest son, looked at the plate of food and said sarcastically, "Mom, you cook like this. No wonder no one wants to come over." The grandchildren laughed, and Samuel, her other son, added a joke, mocking his mother as if it were entertainment. Miss Natalie was shocked. She had sacrificed her life for her sons, and now she was being ridiculed in front of the entire family. She looked at her grandchildren laughing and realized her sons were teaching the next generation to disrespect her. But that day, Miss Natalie decided she wouldn't stay silent anymore. She took a deep breath, looked her sons in the eyes and said firmly, "You may be my sons, but I am your mother, and I demand respect." The table fell silent. No one expected her to react like that. She put her napkin down, stood up, and left the dining room. And ultimately, her sons realized they had crossed a line, leading to deeper conversations afterward to repair the damage. How do you respond when your son disrespects you in front of others? Don't ignore it. Many mothers stay silent because they fear being seen as weak or overly dramatic. But here's an important truth. If you don't stand up, your son will never realize he's wrong. Follow these steps. Don't react emotionally. If your son makes a cruel joke or humiliates you in front of others, don't cry, don't justify yourself, don't try to please him. Look him in the eyes and say firmly, "You may be my son, but I am your mother, and I demand respect." If necessary, leave the room. If he insists, don't continue the conversation, just stand up and leave. When he realizes you no longer accept disrespect, he'll start to change. But what if he says it was just a joke? Many sons try to downplay their behavior, saying, "Mom, you're too serious. It was just a joke. Don't make a big deal out of it. You're too sensitive." Don't be fooled. A joke shouldn't humiliate. A joke shouldn't diminish a mother's dignity. If this happens, respond firmly. If it's a joke to you, it's disrespect to me, and I won't accept it anymore. Then stand your ground. But he's always been like this. He won't change now. Many mothers think this. If your son has disrespected you for years, it might feel impossible to change his behavior now. But think carefully. If you keep accepting it, he'll never have a reason to change. If you stand up, he'll be forced to reconsider his behavior. He might not change immediately, but when he realizes there are boundaries, he'll start respecting you. If he doesn't change, then you need to keep your distance, because no mother should accept being humiliated by her own son. After that family dinner, Miss Natalie stood her ground. She stopped doing chores for her sons, stopped accepting invitations when she knew she'd be mocked, and started standing up more. The first few months, her sons distanced themselves from her. But then something unexpected happened. Arthur called his mother and said directly, "Mom, I want to apologize for that dinner. I realized we crossed a line." For the first time, he acknowledged that his words hurt her, and it happened because Miss Natalie decided she wouldn't tolerate that treatment anymore, paving the way for genuine connection. Dear mothers, I know many of you feel trapped in this situation. You've spent years, decades, dedicating yourselves to your children, and now, instead of gratitude, you receive contempt and insults. But it's never too late to change. It's never too late to change the situation. It's never too late to change. If your son doesn't respect you, set boundaries. Keep your distance if necessary. He might be angry at first, but over time, he'll understand that he must treat you with dignity. And remember, being a mother doesn't mean accepting everything. You deserve to be loved, to have peace, and to be respected. If this content touches your heart, please share your thoughts in the comments. Your personal experiences can empower others. And don't hesitate to give a like, because it's free. And if you find value here, consider following to explore more meaningful insights about family life. See you next time, and always cherish yourself. You deserve it.